Gets you every time. Gets you every single time. I love it.
As the Open was playing, I was thinking, I was like, oh crap, we probably should have warned Jim about the Tom Brady finish there, because I mean it makes all of us jump, and we've been doing this for how many weeks now?
Yeah, like every week it just happens, and you're like, oh right, it's still there. Forgot. Welcome to That Helps No One FantasyCast. A little bit of mix of the Ball Hawks podcast, BB1 podcast. We're talking fantasy football, and we have a special guest today. We've got the legendary Jim Coventry from RotoWire and SiriusXM. Jim, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much for coming by. You're going to give us all of your picks for this week, all of your sleepers, so that we can put them in our lineup so we look smart. But thanks for coming by. Maybe just a quick how do you do for maybe the people that haven't heard of you potentially?
Yeah, I'm excited to be here with you guys. And you moved your show 2 hours. I'm in the Chicago area. I get up at 4 a.m. So it's really gracious of you guys, not just to have me, but to start the show early. So thank you for that. Mainly, we could find me if you have SiriusXM. I'm on the Saturday show, 1 to 3 Eastern. Preseason, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but Sirius schedule changes up a little bit in season, and otherwise those who have RotoWire subscriptions obviously find some of my work there. But to keep me pretty busy though, and I write a lot of stuff that goes out like as notes on players, so there's no name attached to them. But yeah, otherwise Twitter at Jim Coventry NFL. But let's talk some football.
Absolutely, this guy knows what's up. So you guys all know the drill. We've got the chat open. We're going to get to a few of your questions at some point, so be patient. Just be patient. Last week was absolutely crazy, and we thank you for that. But we also want to make sure that we accommodate. We've got a guy that's way more knowledgeable than us, so we want to make sure that we bleed him dry of all of his information. So first and foremost, guys, let's get into the recap of our sneaky starts, sleepy ads. Chris, actually, I got to show you guys this before we get into it. We got a new. Look at this. Look at that. That's it. It's new and improved.
It somehow got better.
It did get better. I spent a lot of time. I spent all of 5 extra minutes changing that up.
The neon lights, way too much.
It's just, I feel we need like the nightclub look. So, Chris, who would you have last week for your start and your ad, and how'd they do?
Those lights were so bright, and I still couldn't wake up. No. Regardless of all the bottles laying around me too, I was zonked right out. Last week, my sneaky ad was DS Gridge. If you added him, feel free to drop him this week for whatever other waiver ad you need to make. I think he got in for all of one play this week, and that was after Pete Carroll said that he was full go in practice all week. So, if you listen to me, feel free to drop him. My sneaky start wasn't much better. I said to start Trevor Lawrence. He didn't have a great game. 162 yards passing, no touchdowns, and sacked 3 times. So I'm going to say 2 weeks in a row, woof.
Hey, it happens.
We've all been there multiple times. Me mostly, but that's how she goes sometimes. Steve, how'd you do, bud?
Like usual, a little good, little bad. When you're hoping on a Cleveland Brown as your start, you are in some serious trouble. David Njoku, if you started him, I apologize. Feel free to find me on Twitter. You see the handle there, and air out your grievances, because that was a horrible start. Just 11 yards. I thought he'd get a lot more looks with Odell gone off to LA. Didn't happen at all. Sorry, Ted. They suck. My team sucked too, if that helps.
It's not my place to tell you not to start Browns.
That's right. That should just be my common sense doing that.
Yeah, you think you would have learned by now. I had Malik Turner and Deshaun Jackson. I dubbed that Dud City, basically. It wouldn't have made a difference if you listened to me or not, because they didn't bother to do anything on the field of note. And clearly, if you started either one of them, added either one of them, didn't really help your cause this week or past week. So that's how she goes. We're all gonna make some mistakes. Like I said, I went like 0-3 in fantasy this week. It was a bad week, but I also faced Patrick Mahomes twice, so you know how that goes. Once to you, Ted. So thanks for absolutely smashing. So that was fun. And Ted,
Yeah. Did we play this week?
yeah, one league anyway, and you dominated me. So.
Oh, I can't remember. I'm not sure I saw any competition, so I wasn't sure.
You didn't take him seriously, Ted. Oh, that's terrible.
He doesn't have to when he's winning, I guess. So.
So last week I chose Rashad Bateman for your sneaky start and Deonta Foreman for your sneaky ad. Both guys had decent weeks. It wasn't quite the going off party for Bateman that I thought it would be, but he looked good. Put up 80 yards, not quite a score, but I mean, it could have been a monstrous week for him. And the other start, Foreman. It looks like, Peterson's still dominating goal line touches. But Foreman showed up. He got about 15 touches. He, in my opinion, balled out in the receiving game a little bit. So I still think at some point this is a guy that you're going to want to continue to roll out. And I think at some point he's going to start stealing those carries from Peterson on the goal line too. So hang on to that one. That was Deese for start and ad this week.
Just a second. I think Ted's trying to call in a plane. Ted, are you at the plane out there?
Roger.
That's awesome. I mean, you weren't on the show last week, Jim, but who would have been one of the guys that you told people to start last week that maybe panned out or maybe didn't pan out?
One player I did tell people to start, if possible, was Bryan Edwards. And he didn't get the amount of targets I thought. Now, fortunately, it was 2 longer passes. One ended up in the end zone. I think about 3 for 88 and a touchdown. I predicted it was literally like 4 catches, 80 and a touchdown, but I thought it'd be like 7 targets. So the process wasn't as good as I hoped. I thought they would be able to throw deep, and he would be more utilized as the X receiver he is in that offense. I thought against Kansas City the prior week, I didn't like him against the Giants because Bradbury was going to make it a little bit difficult on him. But so anyway, it was a lucky call because the process wasn't where it should have been, but the result was okay.
So is that something that you look at quite a bit when you're talking fantasy football or with your own teams, is relying on some sort of formula or metric that, you have lived by and swear by for fantasy football, rather than, we can all get lucky and start somebody who goes off out of nowhere, but like what's a process you use for that?
So a few things. So really, I'm an NFL guy who does fantasy. So I'll break down teams offensively and defensively, how teams scheme, what formational usage there is, and what tendencies would tend to appear in a typical matchup should those teams play, the majority of times what it would turn out to be. So that's where a lot of my baseline goes. I do also reference Football Outsiders DVOA, but I don't just take the base number. They actually break it down by performance against wide receiver 1, 2, tight ends, running backs as receivers. And then I also will cite the pressure rates and the pass blocking from Pro Football Focus. So those are some numbers that I use along with my own. I watch every snap of every game. And so I come in like a coach and how I handle it, but then I use some of those other numbers just to kind of keep me in check, because I do like the outside reference numbers from both Football Outsiders and Pro Football Focus in those specific areas. That's kind of my process in a real quick nutshell.
You think you're doing a good thing when you start to look into matchups and defense and stuff like that. Has anybody ever dropped like a box of toothpicks and you just instantly know how many is on the ground? Have you ever been referred to as like football Rain Man?
I hope not. I hope I have a little bit of a human element still going for me. Oh man, if I get robotic like that, I might have a problem. No, good. That's funny. I like that.
I mean, if you did, could you do that though? I guess just as a party trick.
Maybe.
Okay. Just want to remind everybody too. We do have the chat on the Ball Hawks. Their YouTube, or That Helps No One FantasyCast YouTube. I think we have the Dean Blundell one on there as well. So feel free to leave a comment. I think on the Ball Hawks Facebook page. So by all means, guys, if you've got a question or something you want to get in there, hopefully we can fit it in. We're making good time, so I think we can make it happen for you. Until then, though, because things are just going so smoothly, let's get into our namesake. Let's get into the feature that everybody came for, the feature that they're all going to be talking about tomorrow, Wednesday morning, around the water cooler. I'm I'm trying to figure out which one I want to show here. This is a tough one. Let's go full screen today. Time for That Helps No One stars, the Thanos. It's just beautiful. So you know what? We on any show, it's always nice when you allow the guests to go first. So Jim, I only have the one video, and I've got you queued up for Mr. Wilson. So tell us who's your Thanos for this week.
So Thursday Night Football, everybody's excited for the game. Mike Gesicki's got a great matchup against the Ravens, who are very poor against the tight end. Jalen Waddle, in theory, has a reasonable matchup. And guess what? Albert Wilson, 106 total yards. And let's throw in the teammate. Isaiah Ford goes 4 for 84. Nobody had him, and that helped no one.
Here's a clip.
Tua throws wide open. Albert Wilson. And wrestled down at the 10. A complete bust in coverage again by this Ravens secondary. Well, you're going to see he's coming in motion here. He's dropping down. He acts like he doesn't see him at all. He doesn't know what's happening around him, and nobody goes with him. Chuck Clark's middle safety, but, I mean, they're clearly locked up in man coverage, and I'm not saying it was Chuck Clark's responsibility. It might have.
I'm just going to say, he was open enough. I could have caught that. Me.
Who was covering that guy, Steve? Jeez.
Well, I don't watch every single NFL play like Jim does, but I did watch that play, and there could be blame placed on at least 4 of the 11 defenders on there, and at least 6 of them were on the line, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't their coverage to go from the line back to like middle safety. So,
Do you think it's possible they didn't know Albert Wilson existed in the NFL anymore? And when they saw him, they go, well, he was in the league 3 years ago, so he's not really on the field right now.
The ghost of Albert Wilson went off for 100 yards.
That's it. All those there. That said Wilson on there. He doesn't play in the NFL. Oh, crap. No, he does play. Shoot. Let's go get him.
Yeah, all those boys, they play fantasy football, so nobody started Wilson, so nobody thought to cover him.
Makes sense. That's a great pick. Chris, who you got, bud?
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great transition over to the guy that I have pegged this week. We all know the Buffalo Bills running back situation has been an absolute mess this season. Is it Singletary? Is it Zach Moss? Or is it this guy that I didn't even realize was still in the league? Matt Breida. That helps no one.
Makes his first big play of the day. Here's Matt Breida. Had the early touchdown catch. Breida looking for more. Touchdown. And right now, the Bills pouring it on here at MetLife.
Again, I didn't realize he was in the league. I thought, and apparently the New York Jets also didn't realize he was in the league because he just skirted right through there like an absolute ghost.
And Sweeney was in that clip too.
Yeah, former Thanos star Sweeney in there too. Yeah,
you gotta love it. Yeah, it's so fun when we're bringing up these guys, and at the same time think like, man, there is a lot of like forgotten. We'll call it talent. I mean, you got to have talent to get in the NFL, but when we have enough guys for every single week, where you think like, man, there's a lot of guys that no one cares about in the NFL as far as fantasy goes. And you're like, oh, just happens to be there. Every week, there's always someone. There's always, and in our case, there's always 4. This week, we probably could have like 4 more guys on there, but we try to keep it to a limit. So,
Jim, with Matt Breida, because of course he did score 2 touchdowns last week, and like I said, that Bills backfield is a mess. Do you think people should be rushing to the waiver wire this week and blowing their fob, or is that just a 1-week wonder?
I think it was a 1-week wonder. He had been deactivated for many weeks. Usually when Singletary and Moss are healthy, he isn't active. I don't know if they had a core special teamer that might have been down, and that may have gotten him the game day roster spot. But I don't see them carrying 3 running backs. And the Jets, remember, they're the worst. Well, the Chargers are the worst run defense, but the Jets are close. And I think it's just one of those things. I think he has more likelihood of being inactive next week than he does of contributing.
He just exposed a weakness 1 week and went for it. Makes sense. I'll have my guy on there. Most people don't pay attention to the Detroit Lions. That's just a general statement. So in this case, I did. And I hope I get his name right. I tried practicing in the mirror like 10 times before we started this. Did my hair, and it wasn't working out, so I wore a hat. Godwin Igwebeki. Did I get that right, Jim?
Close. There was a kicker named Donald Igwe, and I think it's the same name. He was a Bucks kicker from like 20 years ago. But I think that's how I know his name, just because he kicked for a while and I heard his name enough.
Regardless, I'm going to let you keep that name intact. So I will just roll the clip so I don't look like an idiot twice.
Through the headset of his quarterback, Goff. Igwe slips through. Putting moves on, and he's going to go all the way in for a Lions touchdown. Godwin, Igwe. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, what we're seeing right now is linebacker.
Not a lot happened after that play. that basically put that game in flux, and that pretty much was the last good thing that may have happened in that game.
So much shake and bake there, though, eh?
Oh, it was graceful. Like he was a gazelle. Loved it. Just so beautiful out there, and so violent. Such a violent sport. So, and then we got our boy Steve. We got there, bud.
So I've been rolling this 1-1-1 train that I call it, and my Thanos player has to have, or is close to, 1 reception or carry for 1 yard and 1 touchdown. And I rolled Kansas City tight end Jody Fortson for 2 straight weeks before we said our goodbyes to him in his torn ACL. So wouldn't you believe, we were watching the Chiefs game, and their new tight end, not Travis Kelce, but Noah Gray, decides to hit me up for the 1-1-1 and give a little salute to Jody Fortson. And that helps no one.
To the right side. Play fake, throw, caught into the end zone.
Wait, do you think he stole that catch from Kelce?
I was going to say.
Like, every fantasy owner was watching that, and they just are watching their player. They're like, there's Kelce in the bag, and Noah Gray jumps in front, and I can just your dreams crushed and ruined from that one.
Mine.
Call that a vulture.
Kelce hates this year because he's just got vultures living all around him. All these guys that are just scoring his TDs, and he's thinking, how am I going to get paid?
Yeah, exactly. Do you even know I'm on your team? We know. We need to spread it around. Like, how about the guys that are getting paid?
Been playing the NFL?
Yeah, just send it to the guy paid. Ted, who you got, bud?
I'm going back to Buffalo. We had TDs from Singletary, Breida twice, which we know about because of Chris. Zach Moss did his thing. Diggs did his thing. And I feel like there was probably some other guys that this could have gone to, but no, they went back to Isaiah McKenzie on this play.
Red zone production has been a focal point. Little misdirection, and they are in. It's McKenzie. Touchdown. Mark, Buffalo started the game marching down the field with a touchdown drive, and they do the same to begin the second half.
Yeah, just a little jet sweep, very similar to the end around you just saw. Just a handoff here, and then getting the edge, good blocking, and C.J. Mosley can't get over there. That whole drive was just way too easy for Buffalo. And you're in New York, you go into halftime, you're trying.
Like we all know, McKenzie's cool. He's an exciting guy. He's fun to watch on special teams, but it feels like they drew the same plan up almost on that side of the field for the Breida touchdown. So that was kind of a funny one to watch. But it's just letting everybody get involved in that one.
I'm glad there was a replay of that one, because I was actually going to ask Ryan to replay the video, because I was fooled, just like the cameraman was apparently, and the New York Jets. I was watching Zach Moss run up the middle there. Yeah.
That's why I looked. I watched the clip once when I was doing this, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't have the ball. Where? Oh, it's a. Oh, you got me too. You got me too.
Yeah.
Very smart. And that's why offensive coordinators know what they're doing, and not people like me. Or you and me, Chris. I should include you on this as well.
Or the New York Jets defensive coordinator, apparently.
Or exactly, yeah. But that's not tough to do. So apparently. So that concludes that. Just trying to see what we got here for that. Let's get right into our sneaky starts for this week. Chris, who is your? Wait, we got to do this. I always got to bring it back. I got to use these new graphics. I'm not getting paid, and we don't pay anybody to do this, so this is as good as it gets for now. So we do appreciate it, Chris.
Yeah.
Who you got, buddy?
So I guess a quick backstory on that, Jim. So you're not just like, how do these guys have a picture of Chris sleeping on a bed?
Drunk on a bed, yeah.
Yeah, we went away for Ted's 40th birthday last month, and played some golf in the morning, and in between golf and going out for dinner, Chris got a little sleepy.
Oh, it lives in infamy now.
Yeah. Ryan and Steve. Too. Yeah, Ryan and Steve were in the room, and we were watching Mean Girls, and I fell asleep, and they took the photos to never let me forget.
Very manly time for sure. And there's a few other photos. We got close to doing a few more, and then you randomly woke up, which was super weird because the stuff we did prior to that.
Yeah, I think Ryan and Steve have officially made fetch happen.
We did.
He doesn't even go here.
Yeah, he doesn't even go here. Love it.
So my sleepy start of the week, and I'm cheating this week because he's also my sleepy ad. But my sleepy start is none other than wide receiver Kendrick Bourne of the New England Patriots. He is only rostered in less than 2% of leagues. He was started last week in less than 1%, which I'd like to just let everybody know I was one of those people that started him last week. And he blew up against a Cleveland team. He had, 4 targets, 4 catches, 100 yards, or 98 receiving yards, and a touchdown. So 20 points in a non-PPR league. And his schedule the rest of the way is pretty gravy. I mean, he's got the Falcons, the Titans. He does run up against the Bills twice at the end of the year here, but he's also got the Colts and the Jaguars. So he's got a pretty good schedule the rest of the way. So I think that's a guy that you want to not only add to your roster, but get him in your starting lineup, people.
There you go. Would you say that is some football knowledge, Chris?
Football knowledge.
There you go.
And sorry, can you please remind the people, because I did mention PPR. Let's remind the people what is a PPR league.
In case you guys don't know, PPR means points per reception. just in case for the lame people out there. So, Jim, I'd like to know who's your sneaky start this week.
So I'm looking at Cam Newton, especially.
Come on. That was going to be my guy.
It's funny. We look back to last year, and everybody says Cam's done. Well, he ran for like 500 yards. He ran for like 12 touchdowns, and now we know that part of his game still exists. And that's for mobile quarterbacks. They're going to give you fantasy points. The other thing is, all right, we know he has shoulder issues. But look at the cast of characters he has now. This is the best weaponry he's ever had by far. He could screen it to McCaffrey, who could do plenty of damage. He's got a legitimate superstar in DJ Moore, and that's easily the best receiver he's ever had. And if Robbie Anderson perks up at all, it's an amazing set of weapons. And if defenses are going to play the run first, Cam can beat them in a lot of ways. And defense are going to have to play run first because of the threat of Cam moving. Now, we're also talking about a Washington football team. Despite last week's great showing against Tampa, they're the worst pass defense in the league. They lost Chase Young, and they're going to have a big hangover after that win against Tampa. They're going to come out flatter than a pancake this week. And this is going to be a great spot. Cam is going to be amped. He's at home, his first start with his former team. It's going to be a big day for Cam Newton.
Love
I
it.
regret pulling him off of my list. you gave it a better show, Jim. So I had him on. I'm like, it just seems too easy to put it, but you sold it like this is like going to be the greatest thing that happens, and it's going to happen too. I'm like, man, I should have took it before Jim.
You wouldn't have sold it like Jim did. It's okay, Ryan.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
If Cam Newton was floors, maybe you would have had a shot, but.
even then, supply's short right now, so we'll see. That's good. Well played, Chris. Well played. Way to use that to your advantage. Ted,
he's also.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to say he's also Carolina's RB2, so it works out great a bunch of ways for them.
There you go. So that does help them anyway. Ted, who do you got for your sneaky start?
Sneaky start this week. I am elevating D'Onta Foreman from sleepy ad to sleepy start this week. So there's a lot of people saying that it's not quite his role yet, and you're looking at, like I said, maybe 15 touches per game. But I think that he's going to take over from AP sooner than later, and I think he's going to do it against a bad Texans team in Week 11.
Wow.
Also rostered in only 2.6% of leagues as of this morning, so that's way too small. I think he still has to be in a sneaky start or ad list at the very least because he's not on enough rosters, in my opinion.
I ran out of money in our whistleblowers league, so I think I have to be pretty wise now. I almost have to trade for guys that I don't even need to have. So which one of you three has them, and I'll trade for you.
Who did you spend all your fab bucks on? Some former receiver for Cleveland that had a good year, I think. One time.
No.
80 fat bucks out of 100.
No, it was Mike White, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to go waste my money on receivers. I'm going to put it on flash in the pan quarterbacks for the New York Football Jets. So,
yeah. Hey, can I have your back on Mike Williams for a minute, though, Ryan? Because you picked up Mike Williams. It's not his fault what's going on right now. The coaching staff is doing a horrible job. Earlier in the year, Justin Herbert was throwing the ball downfield. All of a sudden, something happened where they went back to being a slot receiver offense, and they're wasting Justin Herbert's arm talent. By opening things up downfield, it would make things better for them underneath. And the league is playing a lot of these too high shells where the safeties are playing deep. They're trying to take away the downfield passing game. But the response of the Chargers is they're not going to test it at all. And we've seen Herbert have 3 bad games out of 4 because of that inability. He did mention before last week's game, and he didn't correct it, but he understood. He mentioned he saw the deficiencies of the offense, and he said they would go to correct them. Now, they didn't last week. Hopefully that gets turned around because it's not like Williams' fault. If they start using him the way they did early in the season, those numbers can come back.
I might have a question about DK Metcalf after that, then.
They've got so many.
I'll answer it.
Team. It's wild. Like you'd mentioned, they're playing like the 2 high safeties. They've got enough talent on the outside and in the slot that they could force those 2 high safeties to keep going. The threat of that downfield, and you could hit them with, that classic seam route, and you're still pushing the ball downfield with. Justin Herbert's got maybe the best arm we've seen in the last 30, 40 years. Like he can make every throw and he can make them deep too. Yeah. I'm going to go with my start here. I've been hitting on quarterbacks, so maybe all my other fantasy knowledge sucks apparently. I'm picking Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G, poster Jimmy. He played fairly well against a very stout LA defense. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't have a lot of yards, but he still put up nearly 20 fantasy points. So if he can do that to an improved LA team, he can definitely do that to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Schedule isn't that hard as well. This is a sneaky start, but if you had roster space, he's playing Houston in those championship weeks. He has Atlanta in the championship weeks. And before we got on here, we were talking about, Tennessee and how bad their secondary really is. And it makes no sense why they're good. So 3 potentially gravy matchups in the championship weeks, including next week, a gravy matchup against the Jags.
Now, can I throw some comments on the Jimmy G pick, Steve? Do you mind?
Definitely.
So I saw the Jimmy G game coming last night, because last year, if you remember, it's like week 11 or so when the 49ers played the Rams. They shredded that defense, and they did it by hitting players in two specific ways. They were getting the quick hits off the line before the cornerbacks could engage, and then they were throwing the ball in tight windows on the slants. I thought they would go right back to it because this Rams defense isn't the Brandon Staley defense of last year. It's not as good. And it's exactly what they did. They went in and they completely shredded them. So it wasn't a surprise to me. The one thing that's crazy, though, about this week's game against Jacksonville that you pointed out, Jacksonville, it might be a fluke. They're coming on defensively. Josh Allen couldn't do a thing against them. And I know Carson Wentz, he's Carson Wentz, but no touchdown passes in 2 weeks, 222 passing yards per game. I wonder if this Jaguars defense is really turning a corner. They have a lot of high draft capital. I think they're turning around. Now, Jimmy G still could get them because they got Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle. So you should be good there. But fantasy managers need to understand that this Jaguars defense, aside from this week where you made a good call, they might not be the pushovers down the stretch.
Yeah, it's a really good point to bring up. It's one thing that I definitely look into with fantasy football is separating total season deficiencies or positivities versus you can filter a lot of them by like the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Now you got to decide, is that a difference between, level of competition, or like you said, is this team who's young, new coach, they're kind of just getting this system in, are they actually able to put it all together? They're also at home, so that also scares me. I agree with that.
I'll take the next one here. I've got Michael Gallup as my sneaky start. Yeah, he's going to be your third wideout, and you're not going to you're not looking for him to win your week. But at the same time, I mean, he's been gone for a good chunk of the season, and he did get, what did I see, like 42 yards. Again, Dallas was all over Atlanta in that game. At the same time, CeeDee Lamb, I'm just kind of going on the stats here with, he was out with that injury after the game. They don't think it's going to be major, but again, I think, especially with Casey, you're probably going to be seeing, a missile contest. Basically, it's going to be an air show. So, that means the ball's got to get spread around a little bit, and I think Dak's been able to do that just fine. Expect the usual targets, obviously, with Amari and CD, but he does seem to use his tertiary guys as well, and you'll see some Dalton Schultz as well. But I like Gallup. I think he's a nice little stash away, and again, if he's like your second flex, or just, again, a guy you need to kind of add in there, you're maybe short on a guy, you're still finishing up your bye weeks or whatever, doesn't hurt to throw him in there. And I mean, he's not, like you said, not going to win your week, but Dak Prescott can definitely throw the ball. So he showed it last week.
Can I jump in on you one more time, Ryan? I want to add something to your comment.
Absolutely.
I like that because I see Michael Gallup is going to see targets, and I think it's at the expense of Dalton Schultz. Schultz was seeing a ton of targets when Gallup came out. They were getting Cedric Wilson in as well. But Gallup is a legitimate borderline, I don't want to say star, but he's a way above average player. And when he hits the free agent market at the end of the season, he's going somewhere and he will produce. And he's always going to get the lesser of the coverage of the three receivers, even though he plays on the outside, because you've got CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. So you're totally right on that. But his target share is going up. They didn't need him last week because, like you said, they handled Atlanta so much. But yeah, if this game goes track meet at all, don't be surprised if Michael Gallup go for 100 yards and one touchdown, maybe even a second one.
Jim, is there a scenario here where they can hang on to Gallup heading into next year after missing a bunch of time, or is he gone?
Yeah, the missed time, sometimes that does work. Sometimes that helps. Now, if he's a running back, it'd be tough luck on the market because nobody's going to pay for running backs. I think as a wide receiver in a passing league, I know the production that he had a couple of years ago, last year was a little bit of a fall off. I think the production he's shown, I think somebody's going to sign him the good money because he's a necessary component of a team that wants to put together a high-flying offense. I know Green Bay doesn't pay up much, and I know Aaron Rodgers may not be there, but if they convince him to stay, that would be a really good addition. But there will be teams looking for him.
All right, you heard it here first.
I'm loving this. I think we got everybody. Ted, we got you already, I think, right?
For Sleepy ad? No, not yet.
First starts. We're down on starts, so I think we can get into sleepy ads.
Oh, okay.
Did we get you? Sorry.
Yeah, no,
you
you got
moved
me
up
for
your
start.
guy.
I was the first
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Okay, so let's because I've got you talking. Let's get your sleepy ad of the week.
Yeah, so initially I wanted to go with a guy like Dan Arnold, only because we're talking about targets right now. The guy's a target king. I think it's like 24 targets in his last 3 games. But then as we were kind of going through making our Thanos, I was looking at our Thanos last week, and mine was, Benjamin. I mean, that blow up run that he had. And as I was thinking to myself, like, maybe adding him isn't actually what I should be doing. And then I'm thinking, you know what, with Chase Edmonds out, it's not a flashy ad, but maybe he can snatch up some time while he's in there, and he can pick up that RB2 role. It'd be a decent handcuff, and if you need any more reason to pick him up, I mean, just go back to that play last week and have a look at Truck Stick.
Exactly. I thought you were cheating. I'm like, you can't use a guy you've used already, but that's right, you did have him as your Thanos, so it's passed. It's allowed. It's allowed. Don't worry. Jim, who's your ad this week that I mean, maybe you're going to start him, but definitely stash away.
Yeah, Nico Collins. I mean, I looked up on Yahoo. He's 1% owned or rostered. He's 1% rostered. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I get it. He comes onto the scene. Week 1 doesn't do much. Week 2 catches a 32-yard pass, beautiful down the sideline, and on the play he injures his shoulder. He's out for 3 weeks. But since he's come back, it's moderate production. He had 44 yards. He had a 55-yard game in there, a couple in the mid-20s. But he was one of the only receivers in this rookie class who had an outside alpha-type receiver profile. And Tyrod Taylor had a bad first game back from his injury, but he's a professional quarterback, and he can get the ball to his receivers. And I do believe Nico Collins, his snap share went up. He saw 46 snaps, season high in his last game, and I think that's going to keep going up. And we know the Texans are trailing every week. So I think targets for him, they're going to begin to go up from, the 3 to 6 range to more like the 5 to 8 range. And I think you can not just roster him, but I think if you're really in a pinch, you could get him started pretty quickly, because the next 3 matchups are against defenses 32, 22, and 30 against wide receiver production.
It's a cake schedule.
Yep.
Beautiful. Yeah. Steve, who are you sleeping on to add somebody?
All right, so
I did that right.
Little weird, but we'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. No judges here.
I'm actually going to a rookie from this year's class as well, for the same reasons that Jim just mentioned. Actually, he isn't. He got drafted higher than most people expected him to in the 4th round. Nico Collins, I think, was a 2nd round pick, so he's definitely more of a developmental guy, but he's got kind of that outside build. You wouldn't necessarily play him in the slot. I watched him, lots of his highlights out of Louisville. And with Julio Jones going down, my sneaky ad is for deep leagues where maybe you're keeping a rookie, and that's wide receiver Des Fitzpatrick. The kid just oozes talent. He just needs an opportunity to get the ball. And, Julio having a hard time staying on the field, that's kind of like his opportunity. And I know a lot of people are a little gun shy on that. They've got Marcus Johnson, Chester Rogers. I know there's another one I'm probably forgetting, Westbrook Ikini, or however you say his last name. They're obviously secondary targets to AJ Brown, but I think if you're going to go for a boomer bust ad, maybe it has some rookie value. Go for Des Fitzpatrick.
Nice stuff. I've got an interesting one. Now, he's got a pretty rough schedule to end the season, but he did have quite the game on Sunday against those New York Jets, Mr. Gabriel Davis. Now, he's only rostered in about, 4.6% of leagues. There may be snow on Sunday. I just went and checked the weather. It could change. But they're expecting rain or snow on Monday, and knowing how these crazy windstorms and weather storms are coming through, maybe we see a little bit of snow on Sunday. And you know what? Like watching Buffalo football when there's snow. I mean, even when they were bad, it's fun to watch football there, and they like to make things happen out there. So I mean, they've got a few options, as we've seen, good and bad. But you know what? if you add Gabriel Davis, and again, if you need a guy like he can catch the ball, he's getting targeted, and he's making good yardage out of it. So you might get to let him eat at some point, but if he's available, which he clearly is in pretty much every league and on NFL.com, so give him a try. And if you're feeling really frisky, maybe you start him too.
And if Cole Beasley or Manny Sanders should go down with an injury, you're looking at a top 30 receiver.
See, now I look smart. So thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Chris, who's your ad bud?
Same guy that I said to start, and that was Kendrick Bourne. Like I said, he's rostered in less than 2% of leagues. The Patriots are rolling right now. Mac Jones looks really good. Belichick is, really implemented a system there, or, just Mac Jones seems to fit the Belichick system, whichever way you want to describe it. Bourne is really thriving these last few weeks. And like I said, he's got a really good matchup down the stretch here, especially those championship weeks, save for I think it's week 15 against Buffalo, which is not ideal. But outside of that, he is definitely a guy that I think that you need to add to your roster. He's the number one receiver in New England, and he's owned or rostered in less than 2% of leagues. That's wild. So
there's some crazy goings on out there. That's for sure.
Ted, the answer is yes. I can fall asleep whenever, wherever. It does not take time.
That wasn't me. That was signed anonymous. I'm not sure where that question came from. Someone stole your profile picture. My goodness.
I was going to say that looks. I'm just going to double check, make sure. No, that is in fact you. So.
Oh yes, because yes.
Well, I don't know. That guy doesn't have a very good mustache in that picture, and the guy I'm talking to here has a just brutal mustache.
Yeah,
good mustache.
If I could get my wife to jump on real quick, she would agree. Whenever, wherever, doesn't matter. If I'm tired, I will fall asleep.
We're still sleeping here, right, Chris?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Hey, I mean, I'm up for whenever, wherever. If I get my wife on, she's telling different stories
while you're sleeping.
Yeah, exactly.
A win's a win. A win's a win.
Yeah.
That pretty much runs our show. Guys, did you have any final questions for Jim at all?
I'll throw a fantasy question out if you want. So I have a guy in my league who is out of the playoffs, and we keep 5 players, and everybody's asking him for Cook, and he's asking me, what should I be asking for if I'm trying to trade this running back?
So what do you get to what are the roster keeps for next year? I mean, how does that work? How does the next year?
You get to keep four regular players and a rookie from that year.
Honestly, so Cook this season hasn't shown the same level of explosiveness he showed last year. He may have some legality stuff hanging over him right now, which is going to be pushed into the offseason. I think it's not a bad idea to sell high as to what you can get from him. You only keep 4 as it is. So realistically, it depends who else you're keeping from your roster, because you can only trade for players that you want to keep at this point, right? Because that's what you're talking about. So I guess you would try to get 2 players that you consider keeping, and that would mean whoever that would be better than on your current roster. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Makes sense to me.
Let's say theoretically there was another guy in this league who was just talking with said guy and offered him, because one of them has to be a rookie keeper, so they offered a high draft pick, and now I've got to think of who it was.
Who's on your roster? Just say it.
I know I'm pulling a Ryan here. I'm forgetting who. No, I'm trying to remember who my rookies were that I traded.
Like a first-round draft pick?
Devontae Smith.
And who do second? So there's a high draft pick and Devontae Smith?
Yeah.
See, receivers, when I answered, I should have said I'd like a running back in return. That would be part of it. I think that because if you're getting rid of Cook, the scarcity of running backs is always difficult. Whereas receivers, we always can find a good receiver, right? unless we're talking somebody that's putting up Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown numbers. Devontae Smith could get there, but I would probably prefer a running back than a receiver in that deal.
Interesting.
Good to know.
Does everyone on the show have their answer they're looking for?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's not my answer. I'm just passing along the situation.
Chris, any final words, bud? I thought you were sleeping for a second. I wasn't sure. So
I'm asleep at the wheel right now. I had a busy day, guys. I went to don't go to Costco right now. Avoid it at all. It was bad. Lined up to all the way to the back of the store and then around. Do you guys know where in our Costco here in Kelowna where the big bags of chips are?
I don't think Jim knows. No.
I don't think Jim knows.
He's been there, sure.
So it's lined up to the back of the store where the milk is, around the corner, all the way back down, past where those chips are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Start of COVID lineup. So got
a quick 150 yards then.
Yeah. I was talking to one of the guys at Costco today, and he's like, "This is the worst I've ever seen it."
Okay, so, I've got one, and this is the question I've been bugging Chris all season about this, probably even last season. So DK Metcalf, they kind of use him more as from what I've been seeing, more of as a slot receiver. Should he not be I just feel like he's not utilized properly. There is so much that's being. I mean, it's obvious, but what are they doing wrong with him? What should be going on with DK Metcalf? Because I mean, it's frustrating you watching him be frustrated because we all know that he should be getting those Julio Jones routes because he's clearly a track star. But it drives me nuts because I'm watching a guy just run for no reason whatsoever, and then every guys that probably shouldn't be getting the ball in the first place.
I should have seen the writing on the wall last year. The Seahawks offense was shut down in the second half. And that was the beginning of the league going to the more two high shells. Most teams are playing one safety down, one safety up. And that was teams like Kansas City. Russell Wilson was going nuts in the first half of the season. And for whatever reason, the teams in the division that were playing the Seahawks went to the two high shell to try to stop that aerial attack. Other teams are copying that, and it was Russell Wilson's kryptonite because Russell Wilson has a similarity to Patrick Mahomes that they both want the big play, and they're going to try to buy time and make the big play happen. The problem with the two high shells is they're not letting anybody get behind them. They'll just keep going back. Well, DK Metcalf was exploiting the single high looks. He can't get past the two high looks because you can't get past them. Tyreek Hill can't get past them because you just can't outrun guys who are going 10 yards beyond you. And so DK Metcalf has to be used creatively. And that's the problem. The coaching staff they lack any ability to be creative. You need to use him at this point on a lot of in-breakers because he can run through people. You've got to get the ball in his hands, in space, intermediate area, not so much a short area, 15, 20-yard slants, and let him create his own nirvana, which would also help Russell Wilson. To me, that's the one solution because he has the physical profile where he can handle the middle routes and the beating it would give him. He can dish it out better than they could give it to him. And that would be the one way. But the days of him just consistently running over the top of defenses, as long as the two high shells are here, those days aren't going to be back.
Oh, you answered. This is the answer I've been waiting for probably 9 months probably. So you've answered that perfectly. I can now sleep better knowing that that's how. Honestly, that's just one of these guys that drives me crazy. But we do got to get going. I know a few of our guys have to run, and obviously we've kept you, Jim. We do appreciate you coming on. Make sure you guys check out Jim. Obviously his RotoWire stuff. And SiriusXM on the weekends. I'm going to be locking myself in my wife's car and just listening to that all weekend. Apparently there's an app you can use inside, but then I get to get away from the kids. So makes sense. Jim, thanks so much for coming by. We'll hopefully get you on again at some point, maybe for the end of the season, if we're lucky enough. But other than that, I guess on behalf of all of us, that helps nobody, no one. That's right. Have a great evening, folks, and good luck on your football this week.